What's going on, everyone? You have entered the House of the Conqueror. I'm Johnny B. Crazy, and this is my Westworld Season 3 finale analysis and breakdown. I will also make some predictions for Season 4. Let's not waste any time and get right into it. Westworld Season 3, Episode 8, Crisis Theory was an interesting ride but left us with more questions than answers. Let's see if I can find some answers while going back through the episode. Please leave any responses or questions in the comments below. Stubbs gets shot, and Bernard turns himself into an ass-kicker. He should be renamed Bernard Banner at this point. You won't like him when he's in drone host mode. After giving the man in black a 3-piece and a soda, Bernard opens a can of whoop-ass on the side for the cops. This as well probably sets up a big fight with Bernard and host William in the future. Lawrence stops Bernard from blowing them all up with the fireworks that we see go off at the end of the episode with Maeve and Caleb. He receives the package from Lawrence, which we know now is the 5th pearl. I love Lawrence. However, this was a real anticlimactic moment for this reveal. Either way, he gives Bernard a mysterious suitcase and an address. The address turns out to be the home of Arnold's wife, Lauren. In what is a truly emotional moment, Bernard learns that Lauren never let go of Charlie's memory and made a point to keep living because the memory of him was all she had left after he died. Especially since Arnold killed himself, and Bernard thinks of his memories of Charlie as only pain. As Lauren stated, Charlie lived on through her memories, and Bernard can keep him alive as well, making it a possibility, albeit a slim one, that Bernard could bring back Charlie in the future. It makes me wonder how complete his memories of Arnold's son are. Bernard needed this closure to move forward, and in turn needed to find out through example that Dolores has changed. She's not the revenge-fueled being that she was in Season 2. It's truly beautiful how Bernard and Dolores' thought processes have evolved and merged. Bernard and Stubbs make it to their seedy hotel. Stubbs is put in an ice bath to bide some time while Bernard puts himself in a portable device like the bigger ones in the forge. He unlocks it because he has the key and looks to enter Virtual Eden. What did he do and what information was he privy to? Did he download all the information to his CPU? Let me know what you think. The dust finally settled on Bernard's forehead. Stubbs should be waterlogged by now. It seems that in one of the final scenes, we finally get the 5-year time jump we were expecting. Wake up. Welcome to 2058. Caleb is charged with rebuilding Dolores, and we get more revelations about his past. Also, the building he enters looks a lot like the ones from his memory about Russia. We find out that he's been to the park, Park 5 to be exact, which is used by the military for intense, realistic combat training, and we see that even they were known to take advantage of the hosts. When faced with the decision of whether or not to participate in hedonistic activities, Caleb makes a choice. We see later that this choice influenced Dolores' decision in the end. Caleb has been set up with a crew by Dolores through the Rico app. It's almost like a scene from Entourage. They run into a speed bump delivered by Dolores in the form of hired hitmen. Dolores outbids them, and they escape the hairy situation. She informs him that they need to split up. He needs to get to Insight and upload the Solomon drive to Rehoboam. This part of the episode drags for me, and Caleb wasn't met with much resistance. What resistance he did encounter was at the very end and was somewhat anticlimactic. Ash and Giggles make a small cameo that made little or no difference. Giggles did save Caleb from a bullet, but it was done in such a way that the scene didn't have the emotion it should. This didn't kill the episode for me, but I felt as if the riots were of little consequence and nothing more than a bridge for Caleb to casually walk across. Once he did make it to Insight, it heated back up, and he has to witness the torturing of Dolores. To top it off, sassaK shows him Rehoboam's predictions for the future, while at the same time being convinced Dolores just used him as a pawn. Of course we think he's right. We will talk about Dolores' farewell in a minute. For now, let's focus on where Caleb ended up. He is now the established leader of the rebellion thanks to Dolores. He also now controls Rehoboam and has a partner in Maeve, trading one host sidekick for another. Will Season 4 mirror Season 2 just as Season 3 mirrored Season 1? Will Caleb live out the Wyatt narrative for a season? Maeve is of course revived again. How many times did this really need to happen? She of course is still on the side of sassaK, but throughout this finale, she finally does what I've been screaming at the TV the whole time, which is to question sassaK's motives and genuineness. We have yet another battle with Dolores in which Maeve brings a knife, or katana, to a gunfight. Who knew she would lose? It was a pretty kick-ass scene, but again Maeve can't win. She mysteriously never uses her powers on Dolores. If it wasn't for Dolores sabotaging Dolores' body, Maeve would have failed again. We do get interesting info about the hosts when Dolores tells Maeve
You're all copies of me. The others failed. So they built all of you from me.
it makes sense. Seeing as she was the first and only successful model, it only stands to reason that they would copy her. They just give all hosts a different backstory, and their environment seems to shape them from there. Dolores is the Adam and the Eve of her species. This is a brilliant play by Nolan and Joy. Maeve catches Caleb and he questions her alliance with sassaK. Maeve notices that Caleb isn't the man she thought he would be. This and Dolores' brutal torture starts to get her wheels spinning. Maeve has to bear witness to the consequences of her actions now, as she sees Dolores suffer and have her memories erased by sassaK, one at a time. She finally decides to do the right thing and confronts sassaK, realizing that even he is controlled by Rehoboam. sassaK has given over his free will to the machine he basically worships. The metaphorical god of the human world has to be killed. Under a veil of darkness and in a hail of bullets, Maeve takes out any and all opposition. One thing that's bothersome is that we didn't see sassaK die. Is there a chance he could still be alive? I think not. There isn't much he could do even if he was still alive. His connection and ability to use Rehoboam has been cut off, making him powerless. Not to mention he was a shadow figure and never really existed in the eyes of the public anyway. We end with Maeve and Caleb having a conversation about what's next, and Maeve says,
And in this world, you can be whoever the fuck you want.
We also see the explosions Lawrence promised. What do you see in store for Maeve's future? Will she be the force in which Dolores falls to? We begin in what we find out are Dolores' memories. Dolores has to be rebuilt by Caleb. He takes Dolores' pearl back to LA, and we get to see her awaken in a very cool scene. Her new body is in what looks like a sarcophagus. All of her various parts packed into plastic bags like organs and jars. What a beautiful scene. She tells Caleb not to question her motivations, and she won't question his. We find out that Dolores has evolved. Her way of thinking and her opinion on humanity have changed. The realization cost her her life in a wonderfully poetic end for the rancher's daughter. Hale tampered with Dolores' new body. It was possibly shipped from Dubai when Masashi ordered it to be delivered, which in turn causes her to get captured by Maeve. sassaK is erasing her memories. Maeve begins to realize she's wrong, especially when she enters her mind to retrieve the data herself. But she sees that it's just Dolores' memory. In her last act, she transfers the plan from Solomon in order to give Caleb control of Rehoboam. Let's have a moment of silence for the original Dolores Abernathy. Okay, that's enough of that. Her final moments were a reveal to Maeve and farewell to us as her memories are taken from her one by one. Maeve and Dolores have a conversation about the humans, and through everything bad that they have ever done, in the end, Dolores chooses to still see the beauty. Dolores didn't pick Caleb because he had the capacity for violence, but rather he was selected because of his capacity to choose, to make the right decision. Is this the last we will ever see of Evan Rachel Wood as the original Dolores Abernathy? In the end, she sacrificed herself for hosts and humans alike. What are your thoughts on Dolores' transformative journey? The man in black shoots Stubbs and runs away once the authorities come. Later, he demands his money from the selling of Delos to Insight. While he is waiting on the money transfer, he goes to a Delos facility in Dubai where he finds Charlotte Hale and himself. The man in black has finally been made into a host, and I'm a little disappointed. Let's talk more about the man in black's role as we go through Dolores' story this episode. Dolores has completely evolved into our newest and possibly best antagonist yet. You could say she is a Wyatt of sorts, but it's more than that. She is Dolores that has had traumatic experiences that shape her view of the world and situation. It's important to remember that there still could be good inside of her. She may not be completely evil. We will find out, of course. Hale has made a copy of William. I'm sure she used his Park profile to recreate this version of the Man in Black. She will need a figurehead that is perceived to be human, and William still has power as we've seen in this scene. It seems that his money and account will be reinstated. Now, this doesn't mean Hale can't be perceived as human, but she needs to be like the Wizard of Oz, the host behind the curtain, pulling the strings in the war to come. We see her making a vast host army that will be put to use to take over humanity. She made very clear that she knows everything the original Dolores did. including her plan to destroy humanity before she changed her mind. The loss of Hale's family was a tipping point for her character. She justifies and minimizes their death by stating they were a weakness anyways. These emotions are so human and we all cope in very different ways, this being one of them. Hate has replaced love in her heart. You will see more internal conflicts with her in the future. For now, she is the big bad, possibly the most powerful villain we have seen in this series. How do you feel about the new big bad in this series, and how did you feel about Season 3 overall? Let me know your predictions for Season 4 and I will put the best ones in the next video. Sunday, immediately after the Westworld finale, was the last before the dust settles with Top Shelf Fandom of Season 3. Go check it out. And Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on the Episode Club with Mackenzie L. Burns, you can catch me there, and the links are in the descriptions below. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more content like this, and a very special thank you to all my patrons. Check out my Patreon if you want to support my crazy. Thank you for visiting the House of the Conqueror. Johnny B. Crazy, signing off.